What is up, YouTube? It is Literary Larry coming back at you again with another sick book review. This book owes me something because I am gonna fucking Mutual Aid, Mutual Lust, Mutual Regret, a book by our favorite Onion Matter. And I would like to put out a disclaimer here that these are all jokes and you should not go harass this person because I will not be getting sued for damaging their income. Anyway, let's meet our characters, shall we? So far, this is a review of the first 37 pages. Main protagonist, Salvia. Real name Sally, but she's edgy, so she named herself after a drug. Jankum, the roommate, and Malcolm, the Marxist-Leninist representation and lover. So the book starts, Salvia takes an asshole picture. We learned that her couch, the cum couch, smells and is gross. We learned that she smells and is gross and doesn't believe in showering or something. The apartment is trash. Later in the story, there's a reference to a dead rodent just on the floor. The whole book, I guess we should start here, is written in 2 to 3, maybe 4 sentence paragraphs. It's absolutely insane. Clearly, Onion learned, like we all did in 5th grade, that paragraphs should be 3 to 5 sentences long, and then she made that her whole personality for the rest of her life. These paragraphs are insane. Half the book is just single lines, 3-word quotes. It's wild. It's not like anything I've ever seen. I guess as a compliment, unlike other bad authors, at least she does use periods. So like there aren't like 40 line long paragraphs that are just one sentence. Let's see. The writing style, I think she thinks that this is funny, or she thinks this is like biting satire. It's none of that. It's the humor of like a 4th grader, and she would actually have to understand reality and the basics of like what she would be satirizing for it to be satire. This book comes off as she's just furious that like MLs and sex workers exist and none of them like her, is at least the tone that she's setting. She does write a lot of like gotcha quotes or things that like I think she thinks people say online seriously. They sound like things that I would post on Facebook as a joke, but I don't think she realizes that when we say things like that it's real. Statements like, let's see here, patchouli is bourgeois. At one point, she farts a lot in the first 37 pages, and says gas is praxis, while she's trying to sleep with Malcolm. So let's go back. The book starts, she sends a picture of her asshole. The left-wing internet loses its mind. Every single left-wing Twitter page is talking about it and championing her butthole. The thing that's crazy is I have read 37 pages and I've counted there are 15 unique descriptions of a butthole. Like I said, if it was a good book, this would be funny, but it's just tedious. So she takes a picture. The left book loses its mind. Again, she lives in squalor because she's a sex worker and worthy of derision. But we're all morally bankrupt, so we love that for her. All these people blow up her phone praising her, but Malcolm, a gaunt, slender, pale, sickly looking online only theory bro. Um, he responds that he wants to smell her or inhale her. Uh, and this is why she picks him, because I think of the air of worship, because Salvia is a narcissist. So she invites Malcolm over. Before then, her mother calls, and we get like a 2-4 sentence each paragraph. The mother calls and is like, "Your rent's overdue." She responds that rent is capitalist theft, which, correct, rent is theft. She's saying this as if like having this as opinion is a bad thing. But again, remember, she's a sex worker, so she's filthy and essentially useless. So she isn't paying her rent. She's just sort of letting everyone take care of her because that's what Onion thinks sex workers do. Anyway, she gets called. She hangs up because Malcolm appears. Malcolm arrives with a DVD called Battleship Potemkin, and she immediately loses her mind because she doesn't have a DVD player. So she starts to deride him. The roommate is just sort of like lurking in the doorway of the kitchen. We'll get to the roommate's B plot, which is really the only plot at this point that I'm interested in just a second. The roommate's standing there, and is like, "Dude, look at her. Do you think this lady has a DVD player anywhere?" So she gives him crap. Malcolm is like a flinchy little like incel-y type dude because he's a theory bro, and that's how we all are. And so she's like, "Whatever, we'll just watch a YouTube like breakdown of it." And then they're like, "Oh, okay, we can sit on the couch now." So they sit down on the couch. She immediately tells him, like, farts on him again. She's described as like sweaty to the point of being wet. And then we get a 4-line detailed description of her letting a fart out of her while she's got like her legs across him on the couch, the cum couch, if you've forgotten. And then he's like clearly uncomfortable the whole time, and is like fidgeting and is like nervous and isn't really sure of the situation. And she spends so much time painting the picture that he is like woefully unprepared for this and being made uncomfortable. Okay, I'm going to preface this section with a trigger warning because Salvia does attempt to essentially force Malcolm into sex. So there is like a playful little theme of SA that happens in chapter 5. She decides at the end of chapter 4 Malcolm is still inshore. At the end of chapter 4, she looks at him and is like, "Malcolm, we are having sex." So chapter 5 starts, he's like even more put off and like uncomfortable and fidgeting. Anybody in the real world, if you invited somebody over to hook up and they were like giving these signs, you would fundamentally understand that this person isn't sure. Probably all consent would be forced because they're doing it because they think that's what you want. So any sane person would back off. However, remember, Salvia is a sex worker, so she is inherently predatory according to Onion. She's filthy. She's a predator. She essentially, like a Venus flytrap, pulled this boy in and then is going to force him to sleep with her. And I think this is made infinitely more creepy because the way that Onion, I don't think it's intentional. I think it's because she's really, really bad at writing characters and dialogue, makes Malcolm come off as like almost like if a 12-year-old discovered Leninism online and then thought it was cool and is now somehow roped into this like sex pests dungeon-like apartment. So she decides we are going to do it. The roommate is still, I think, in the kitchen at this point. You can't really tell if he's still in the kitchen or still in the doorway. Either way, Salvia decides that they are going to do it. Malcolm like fumbles with his belt. He like can't get it up or something. He's so visibly uncomfortable and nervous that she's like sort of like hammering him with these like sarcastic like insults. Like she's like, what if I like talk to you about like the dictatorship of the proletariat? Will that make you hard? And keep in mind, right after he's like pressed into the cum couch and she's draped across him in like this like leather harness. Keep in mind that this house is like covered in trash. He so clearly thought he was coming over to like talk about leftist principles, or like watch this movie and talk. And because of that, he's like woefully thrown off about this whole idea that we're going to hook up. She says we're going to fuck. Immediately farts on him. This is where we get the line, gases praxis. Malcolm stands up and starts like furiously fumbling with his pants. He drops his DVD. The DVD rolls across the floor, and this is when we find out it hits the corpse of a dead like mouse that's just in the corner. She starts saying things to him like super condescending and weird, like, you're telling me even in the name of revolution you can't get hard. She's like, maybe we can sit down and watch the video and like we can talk about it and like that will get you hard. Her roommate is still vaguely around watching this. Like, it doesn't sound like they're in a cuck chair, but they might as well be. But he's just sort of there, backseat driving or like peanut gallerying Malcolm insults. He's like, geez, I knew theory bros were like bad in bed, but this is ridiculous. She says then the means of production should be collectively owned, and bam, you'll get an instant erection. Malcolm doesn't. He understands that he's being made fun of. Sylvia's roommate launches into my favorite insult so far, which is, goddamn man, just log off. He grabs his coat and like sprints out of the house because he's like, clearly this person was trying to force them into something they didn't want, so he ran away. And that's how chapter 5 ends. Chapter 6 starts. Sylvia is so blown away that this guy came over and didn't want to sleep with her, despite the fact that her apartment is like filled with refuse and dead animals, and she farts several times at and on him, including at one point farting on him and like demanding that he inhales it. So she's furious. So she decides that she is going to cancel him on Left Book. And so I'm going to end the video with like my overall thoughts so far, but this is where I think we come to really the main point of what is going to be Onion's complaint. Onion is clearly going, I think, because I'm only halfway, I did not read ahead, I wouldn't lie to you, viewers, is going to like talk about like the villainy of like gang stalking-esque online Left Book mob cancellations, because that's what she's, currently screaming about and has made her entire personality. So I think that's what's going to happen. So already she is like crafted this, that like Salvia is a predator, and now because the predator get what she wants, she's going to destroy this poor boy's life. And I think there's a definite tinge of like, this is what leftist women do. They like destroy and tear down cis straight white guys on the internet for like fun, and like really truly dudes like me are just like floating through life being beacons of virtue and never doing anything wrong, and then like mass mobs of like shrill leftist sex predators are coming in and then slamming us online to ruin our good name, which is hilarious considering all of the men that Onion associates with and has friendships with are like out and out, at best, left-wing grifters who stand for nothing, and at worst are outright Nazis. All right, I had to get my laptop for this point. So she posts about him online at the start of chapter 7. Here are this is her post. And if you're wondering if Onion typed it the way somebody would write on 4chan, rest in peace, with like the little arrows line by line, that's exactly how Onion typed it. She didn't paraphrase it. She didn't like subset it as like smaller text as like a lengthy quote or anything. She just wrote it line by line for like 5 pages. But here are my favorite parts of her post destroying Malcolm. She starts it with content warning, anti-feminism, sexual incompetence, and gaslighting. And then she says, it's exhausting how often leftist men talk a big game about liberation, but fail to uphold those principles in the bedroom. A thing I have never seen a sane human type. This is a pattern of a systemic issue, and I won't be silenced any longer. Last night I had an encounter with a so-called comrade that left me shaken. We need to talk about Malcolm. So Salvia is like well known on the internet. For some reason, apparently Malcolm now is. There's no hint beforehand that Malcolm has a following. When he says he wants to smell her, it comes off that he's just like this frail little like baby boy communist who lives somewhere and typed this up. At no point in time does it say like people know about him. But she goes on, at first I thought he was different. He wore the uniform, the beanie, a secondhand jacket, and an underfed intellectual look. I don't know. A lot of dudes look like me, which, say what you will about that, we all look a dime a dozen, but underfed is not something. I get called fat like 20 times a month by reactionaries online, so I don't know where this underfed communist thing is coming from. He called himself a poet, but when the moment came for him to practice what he preached, he failed. Keep in mind, at no point in time do we know that Malcolm is like a sex shit poster, or that he has ever talked about like sexual liberation or anything. And even if he does talk openly about it as like pro-sexual liberation and stuff like that, him not getting an erection in an uncomfortable situation is like not a slam against Marxist-Leninism or sexual liberation. I don't know. Leftist men love to talk about smashing the state, but what about smashing pussy? Women are expected to perform all the labor. Again, we have no idea if he ever said any of that. Last night, Malcolm came into my home with nothing to offer but a $2 DVD and a flaccid sense of entitlement. While she's typing this, Malcolm reaches out to her in the DMs and is like, hey, sorry, like, I was in my head earlier. I hope you're doing okay. Sorry I made everything really weird. So anyway, she, as Onion calls it, posts the post, and it detonates like a Molotov cocktail hurled through a factory of disgruntled workers. And this is a thing that she does often, where all of her analogies are like annoyingly like, ooh, I like communist analogy. Everything has to be related to that. We can't just have like good writing. I'm making a vague point or something. And all of this is just dumb. It's not, again, like good satire or anything like that. Um, Immediately once this posts, the internet explodes. Everyone is like, this is so real. Leftist men are the worst. I knew Malcolm gave off fake ally vibes. The flaccid sense of entitlement sent me. Honestly, reading theory but not being able to make a woman come is a contradiction that needs resolving. So, like, this is... I have seen plenty of call-outs on the internet. I have been part of several, mostly by Wick and Siren. So, like... But one thing I've never seen anyone gang up on, like, I've seen people accuse somebody of sexism, but I've never seen anyone be like, this guy didn't make me come, and then the entirety of websites, left-wing sides of websites, basically call this guy's, like, for his head. In reality, most people would be like, hey, this is fucking weird, that you're, like, blasting this. I could almost speak without a doubt that everyone would be like, hey, this is a thing that, like, you guys should talk about personally. And this is the problem, I think, with Onion's overall straw man, is that she thinks that, like, she's either too dumb... I'm gonna say it. Onion, my opinion, is too dumb to understand, like, actual nuance, and, like, that call-out posts, for the most part, happen for a good reason. There are people that make insane ones all the time, Wick being one of them. But, like, this straw man of that she's setting up doesn't work because actual left people on Left Book would call it out, like, immediately. So, like, this book wouldn't even happen. And so this is kind of where I'm going to finish my part 1 review. I find the whole thing, it's pointless. She's so clearly just mad, and instead of going to therapy or doing any sort of self-criticism, a thing that actual Marxist-Leninists believe in, she wrote a 74-page book getting mad about a situation she made up in her own head, because the real situation she can't write about because of, you know, legal things. And, you know, for, I'm assuming, plausible deniability, that she could be like, I would never. Oh. But the problem with her argument is, so A, she sets up that, like, sex workers are inherently filthy and predatory, right? Salvia has a ferret that she's apparently murdering for reasons we're not given. At one point the roommate says, hey, you need to clean your ferret's cage and feed her. The ferret is starving. And she responds, oh, she's on a hunger strike for capitalism, or against capitalism. So she's just like, she's a bad person because Onion has decided she's a bad person, and I don't think in the last half of the book we're going to get, like, some deep introspective reason on why she's a bad person. She's just a bad person because she represents the people Onion hates. And that's it. And that's sex workers, and she finds them filthy, she finds them predatory, they lie all of the time, and they ensnare good-natured men in their traps. On the flip side, Malcolm, like all theory bros, as she's referred to him in the book, are weak-willed, naive, spineless basement dwellers who have like no real-world anything, and that they just read theory and that's it. And don't get me wrong, there are plenty of those that exist on all facets of the political spectrum. The problem is that this is who Onion thinks is it, because she's so terminally online with her 11,000 sock accounts that she only interacts with terminally online mouth-breathing troglodytes that, like, do nothing but like post pictures of like Marx and like Marxist-Leninist edits on TikTok, and don't actually stand for anything, and they would be right wing in a moment's notice, like the ACP or anybody else. This is who Onion interacts with, so this is who she thinks they are, and I think this whole rage against MLs comes back from like really my one interaction with Onion, which was I had friended her a few years ago because I was unaware that she was, you know, a crazy person. And she had posted about how like all MLs are like useless sexists, and when people arrive to be like, well, that's not true, this is like my interaction or like what I've done and stuff like that, she just basically screamed that we were being sexist and ganging up on her, which is, come to think of it, the ganging up thing is a argument she likes to use a lot. But in the book, she paints that Malcolm is like, she's trying to set up a situation, but she can't have her cake and eat it too, where Salvia is a monster who ensnares and then tries to ruin Malcolm's life. But the problem is she also makes fun of Malcolm. So her trying to set up that, like, as the narrator, like, try to set up a moral sense or like her moral line, she can't claim it, because the entire time Salvia is attempting to commit SA, the roommate is standing there badgering Malcolm for being like a limp dick weirdo. So, and to me, that is Onion talking, right, through the roommate, because the roommate also hates Salvia and is constantly talking about how they don't like her, how they need to move out, how she's gross, and all of these things. So, like, the roommate is clearly, at least as of now, is the surrogate for Onion's voice. So she also shames the victim. So she has no leg to stand on here. And then, as a final thing, because I promised you maps, and I hinted at it before, in the book, there's a beeline of the roommates seemingly being trapped in their apartment, unintentionally. I just find it hilarious. She's not writing this. It's just the way that she's writing has me utterly confused. So I'm gonna pull this up. I'm shooting this on my phone. Here we go. So here's their apartment. Don't worry that if you can't read what I'm writing. I know that. I'm gonna bring it up. So here's the comp couch, the CC, if you will. Here's the front door. This is how I think it. And then there's the kitchen. So in the book, Salvia is on the comp couch taking pictures of her butthole for Twitter. So the roommate comes in. He sits down in, I think there's like a chair here. I think the ferret's dying over here. But he sits down in the chair somewhere in here and opens his laptop, and we have a description of the laptop fan wafting the stink around. Anyway, she's taking pictures of her asshole and like gleefully looking at the responses and setting up Malcolm. He says, basically, like, this is when he says, you have to feed your ferret, and she says that the ferret is hunger striking. He then, the next time we see him, he closes his laptop and like huffs, and the laptop like blows more stink around. Then more plot goes on. He's still just sitting in the chair, not on the laptop. There's no hint that the TV's on. As far as I know, he's just sitting there, blank-faced. But then she references again that he closes his laptop again, in which time he says, I'm moving out. Then he gets up and he moves to the kitchen, and this is when Malcolm comes over. And so he's in the kitchen, like, shouting things to them. The way that she makes it seem is that he's not necessarily shouting things from the table there. He's on his laptop. She makes it seem, with the way he's talking to Malcolm, that he is getting up every single time that he says something to Malcolm, which is crazy. He shuts his laptop again. He then comes in and makes fun of Malcolm again before he retreats back to the kitchen and is back on his laptop. And then where we left it, he has closed his laptop and said he's moving out again. So, as far as I can tell, in the first half of this book, the roommate is trapped in like a Groundhog Day type loop or something where he can't escape. He can only keep saying out loud that he's moving out and closing and reopening and closing his laptop. And that's it. That's the entire first half of the book. The roommate's trapped. We're set up now that Malcolm, where I have left it, Malcolm has deleted his online presence, and Salvia is basking in the cancel all men glow. So I look forward to reading the second half of this book. I can't wait to find out if we learn more ways to describe a butthole. I can't wait to find out how Malcolm retaliates. And I can't wait to find out if Onion has a actually forms a real solid, good, defensible argument. Till next time, everybody, I am going to go cook food and pretend that this never happened. P.S. Supercut of all of the words that she used for asshole. Unwashed ass, winking butthole, buttholes, her cinnamon ring, forbidden peeper tucked in her musky crevice, love that one, winker reeks, poop shoot, chocolate starfish, sweaty holes, what would you do to smell my unholy iris, butthole pics, you look exactly like your butthole pics and smell even better, balloon knot, and we have, let's see, balloon knot one more time. So there you go. Have a good Monday.